Everyone is always looking for new music to listen to, so I figured I'd share a few albums I like that maybe people haven't listened to before. Some will be obscure and others will be mainstream, but in either case, should give a little insight into the music I listen to. Number 1, Gorillaz, Fall. Those who know me know that Gorillaz are one of my favorite bands, but that may come as a surprise to others. Gorillaz are a pretty popular band, and most people are likely aware of their first few albums, but The Fall seems to slide under a lot of people's radar. It makes sense that it would, as it came out very shortly after their third album, Plastic Beach. It also had a very small production, with the whole album being recorded from an iPad in just 32 days while the band was on tour to promote Plastic Beach. This album also didn't produce any big hits, despite having a good double single of Revolving Doors and Amarillo. Unlike the past albums, Gorillaz didn't create any animations to go along with the songs for this album. What this album does well, however, is that it is easy to listen to. The album feels very relaxed and goes hand in hand with the idea the band was on tour. The different sounds throughout the album represent the different parts of America Gorillaz visited over the course of their road trip. If you're a fan of Gorillaz' other work and haven't given this one a listen, check it out. Number 2, Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, Up From Below. I thought about putting a Grateful Dead album on here, but since I already did an entire post about them, I decided to go with a more recent band that scratches a similar itch. Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros are a folk rock and pop band from California that represent a modern hippie lifestyle. I first heard a couple of their bigger hits when they first appeared in TV shows and commercials with songs like Home, Jangling, and 40-Day Dream, but I didn't really explore their work until the last year or so. Once I got into them, I loved their entire vibe. It's very relaxed and cozy, and I've described them to a couple of other people as sounding like a bunch of musicians all gathered around a campfire playing tunes together. I contemplated putting one of their more obscure albums on this list, like I did with Gorillaz, but I don't think they have the clout that Gorillaz have to justify me doing that. If you are familiar with this album, however, I do recommend checking out their other work. Number 3, The Band's The Band. Yes, you heard that right, an album called The Band by a band called The Band, so get ready to hear that name a lot in this segment. The band have been well respected by those in music community for being musicians for a long time. They often come up in rankings for the greatest bands of all time, and they're also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But most people never talk about them, and if they do know any of their music, it's only one song, The Weight, which even that often gets labeled incorrectly as Take a Load Off Fanny. The Weight doesn't appear on this album, but one song people may have heard before would be Up on Cripple Creek. The band also showcases some great Canadian talent, with all the musicians playing great without anyone outshining the others. Their use of 3 different and very distinct singers throughout the album also helps with the listenability of the whole album. The album combines historic themes with folk sounds to create an authentically Americana experience. Number 4, Dr. John, In the Right Place. To continue from the band, if you've ever seen their documentary concert film, The Last Waltz, you would know that the coolest cat on earth is Mac Rebennack, better known as Dr. John. He strolls onto the stage and captures the attention of everyone with his swagger and all-around cool, calm, and collected vibe. This album has the song he performed at that concert, Such a Night, as well as an entire collection of New Orleans funk tunes. The whole album is fun, upbeat, cool, and will make you want some shrimp gumbo. If you've never listened to Dr. John before, and with his recent passing last year, you owe it to yourself to check him out. Number 5, Tatsuro Yamashita's For You. Definitely the most obscure album on this list, and sticking to the funk, this album is one to check out. Those who have been around me in recent years have probably heard me praise this album at some point. I think the less said about it, the better though, as this album is just a great surprise. I will, however, say the opening track, Sparkle, is hot fire, and gets me amped whenever I hear it. Just come into it with an open mind, and I think you might be as pleasantly surprised as I was listening to it for the first time. That should give a good idea of some of the music I listen to. A lot of relaxing, happy, and fun music. There were so many albums I could have chosen that didn't make the list, so if there is any interest, I would be open to doing this again in the future.